Here's a video showing the major new things in version 2023 of UVLayout. So the first one is the color themes for the GUI. So let's have a look. So that's all the buttons and etc. So this is the original color scheme. And so the default now for new users will be the dark theme, or if you want to change to the dark theme, then go to About UV Layout, Preferences, GUI, and so here's the three themes. So bold is the original one you see here. So I'll show you the dark theme. So when you select the option, you have to quit and restart to see the change. So let's do that. We'll just exit and see what the dark theme looks like. So this is the dark theme for the GUI. So you can just see here the choice options there are sort of a yellow and a lighter grey. Otherwise, it's all pretty self-explanatory. So what you'll notice though is the background color for this workspace area has also changed from the original lighter grey. So it's the idea is it sort of matches the tone of the buttons interface. But if you want to change that, you can. You just go into About UV Layout again, Preferences, GUI, and go to here Workspace Colors. So we'll click on that. So here's the various color options for different elements within the workspace there. So really it's just a background. You can easily change that. So if we want it to be a bit lighter, I can just change that to, let's go 44. Right, so that's done. Let me just kill that. So that's if you want to change the background separately from the main GUI sort of color scheme. So that's the basics of well, there's not much else you can do there. That's it for the color themes. Here's changes to the trace maps. Okay, so here's our model. The trace maps are loaded here. So let's just click on trace there. So let's select this one, for example. So if I use T and T here, so it'll show that image, that texture map is mapped onto the geometry there. So the original idea behind trace maps was if you had some photo or something like that you were trying to match with the UVs, then you'd load that in, and then as like you're tracing over the top of that image to modify the UVs. So that's where the original name comes from, but now it's just generally used to load other texture maps. So what's changed now is previously could just load up one map and that was it, but now we can load up multiple maps and apply them to different parts of the model. So let's say I'll pick the legs here. I'll move them into different UV tiles. So I'll just turn the trace maps off for now. So that's the UV tile there. So I've moved these other pieces into pieces into a different tile. So then I can apply a different texture onto that tile. So that's how you load in multiple maps. They've got to be in separate tiles. So I'll turn that back on. So that's one of the other changes, is you can just turn trace on and off now to toggle the view of the map on and off, where in previous versions if you turned it off and turned it back on you'd have to reload the map. So now it's just a toggle for making it visible or not visible. Okay, so to load a different map into this tile is I just move the mouse pointer to the top right of the tile there, and you see a little checker icon appears, so click on that, and then I can, it brings up the file selection thing, and I can pick a file there to load in. So let's select grass. At any point you can just click preview here just to see what what that file is going to be before loading it. So let's go select. Okay, so it's loaded the grass texture into that tile, and then so you can see here, I'll just unselect everything, so you can see here those bits of geometry now have the grass texture on them. Okay, a couple of additional things here. By default, the UV seams are shown in this 3D view here. So if you want, it's easy enough to turn that off. Just go to under display, select more there, and it's just hide seams in 3D. So that will turn off those UV seams there. So it's easier to see the texture. Also, another thing to point out is you can see there's still some, if I turn the trace off, so you can see here the color tinting, the reds and the blues are on by default, so that's just to indicate where the UVs are stretched or compressed. So that's usually on by default. But if you've got texture maps loaded and you don't want this color tinting to sort of show through on the map, then under display here, that's tint here, so we can switch that to off. So now that's just showing the texture without any additional tinting for the distortion error. Alright, so that is how to load a texture into a different, apply texture to different parts of the mesh. A couple of things, if let's say I select this hand, just put them in here, there. So you can see, even though I have loaded the grass texture into this tile here, it's repeated for that entire row. Same with the bricks here. If I move that into there, so any texture loaded into the first tile on a row will repeat for the rest of that row. But of course you can then go to an individual tile on that row and load a separate texture. So I'll do that here. I'll just load in water just to show you that. So you can, so basically the rule is if you load a texture into the first tile there, it repeats over the whole space, but then if you load textures at the beginning of a row, it repeats for the row, and then otherwise you can load a texture into any other tile. If you want to change the texture at any point, you just again select or if you want to delete it, you can just press X there, so then it goes back to the row repeat texture. If you want to load a separate a different image into somewhere, you just check the texture again. So that's the changes to the trace maps or texture maps in this 2023 version. Now let's look at the new drop menu. Okay, so here we've got a couple of shells that ought to have been dropped. So that's from the edit view to the UV view. So if I use the D key here, you can see it just drops them down to the bottom right of the existing flattened geometry, which is fine. But let's say, for example, we had this shell over here for whatever reason, and then if we start dropping these new pieces, you see they end up all the way over here because the default has always been drop new shells to the bottom right of the existing flattened geometry. So if you have this situation where you've got something way out there, and you know it needs to be way out there, the new drop menu can be handy. So that what that is if you're in the UV view here and you just tap the D key, it brings up a menu here, and so basically it's you click the left mouse button to set the drop location. So it draws a little home icon there to indicate that that's where the newly dropped geometry will go. So if I start dropping these other pieces of geometry, you see they from that original home position they stack across to the right. If you want to unset it, you can just do D right mouse button, and then it will default to way over here. Another option is I can set the spacing. So if for some reason you wanted each newly dropped piece of geometry to be in its own UV tile, I can set the drop point here, and I can set the U step. So that's, I just type DU1. So now when I drop shells, so let's say I've dropped that one there, drop that one there, drop that one there, you can see each newly piece of drop geometry ends up in its own UV tile, because I'd set the U step to 1. I could set it, if I set the V step to 1, it would stack vertically. So that's the D menu, which is accessed in the UV view. This is a quick look at a couple of new hotkeys for what I'm calling generally quick moves. Right, so here's our model as the pieces. I'll turn the seams back on. Okay, so what I mean by quick moves is just a quick way to move shells about. So let's say you may have seen this earlier in the video, but I'm going to explain it a bit more now. So I'm going to pick, let's say I pick these shells here in the 3D view, and then so it's under the M for magnet sort of group of hotkeys. So if I've selected some shells in either the 3D view here or the UV view, so they're the ones that have got the green highlights and the black outline, I can aim the pointer at some other UV tile or basically anywhere in the UV space and go Shift M, and it will move those selected shells to the pointer location. So so that's that quick move. Let's do another one. Let's just select the legs here, and let's say I want them up there. Shift M. So that's the Shift M for magnet move. The other one is J, which I'm calling J for junk. So that's if for some reason you have some shells that are not really interested in processing right now, or just they're going to be deleted, i.e. not saved, and you want them out of the way, you can just use J here. So I'm just tapping the J key over the top of the shells, or I can do let's go J anywhere else and stretch a box. And so what that's doing is it's throwing them over here. So it's not doing anything fancy about packing them so that they're not overlapping. It's just throwing them into the junk over here. And that's if we go to edit settings here, that's the junk tile, which is -1 U and 0 V. So you can change that location if you want as the tile where junked shells are thrown. So they're not deleted or affected in any way. It's just basically they moved into that tile. So it's just to get them out of the way temporarily. You might want to bring them back at some point. If you let's go Shift M again. So that's pulled some of those things out of the junk and other ones and moved them there so that you can use them together. So that's the new quick moves. There's quite a few other bug fixes and additions. So if you've got UV layout, click about UV layout here, and you can go check for updates. So that'll just open your default browser and list. If you look for version 2023 down the bottom of the list, it'll list there all the changes, additions, bug fixes. There's lots of other sort of minor ones that I haven't listed in here as well. So I'll just quickly show you just a few of them. Okay, let's just have a look. We've got a couple of panes open here. If you use the / key, it just quickly toggles in and out of the pane you're on, so that saves you having to find the minimize, maximize icon there. You can just use / key. Let's have a look at working with packing boxes. So this is in the Pro version. So I can select those, create a new box. So this one's new, contents move lock. I'll turn that off. So that's the original behavior, or the older behavior was if you've got a shells collected there in a box and I hold down space, that would move a shell within the box. And if I wanted to move the box, I'd have to have if I wanted to move the whole box, I'd have to try and find some empty space in there and use that to move the whole box, which is fine. But if you're zoomed a long way out and or let's say for example it's really packed very tight and you can't find any empty space, it's very hard. Then you have to try and select one of those corner arrows to move it. So that's in previous versions, but now you can select this contents move lock option under pack. So that means now when the lock is on, you can just select anywhere within that box, whether it's on a shell or in space, and it will just move the entire. So it's easy now. If you've got a lot of boxes and you just want to move the boxes around, just turn the locking on, and then it makes it really easy just to move them about. Another one is I use this one a lot just for my work. So because a lot of what I do is pattern making, that is generating physical layouts for cutting pieces for fabrication, I needed to, let's say this is a piece of something that needs to be cut out and I've got a sheet of metal or whatever. I want to move that because I'm nesting or packing everything into the sheet as tight as possible, but I don't want to get that right on the edge. I'll need to allow a bit of space to the boundary. You can, let's just say under packing, I set the bleed. I know that I want, let's say 5 units in this case because I know I'm working in millimeters. The bleed there, I'm using the bleed there to indicate 5 millimeters of gap. And then under the snapping, this is new, is the hash option. So previously, if I wanted to do what I was doing, which is I'd have to select the left side, which means if I wanted to push this shell right up to the left side of the sheet but leave that 5mm gap, I could select left, but then I have to think, well, I want to get it down the bottom, so which one of these do I use? Well, I use the bottom there, so that snaps it to the bottom left. But then if I was, say, wanting to move that to the top, you have to select, no, I actually want top. So it's simpler now, just select hash, So what hash does is it just finds the bounding box of the object you're moving around and snaps either the bottom or the top or the left or the right sort of boundary to the grid. So in this case it's easy, then I can just move that around and I don't have to worry about is it the left, is it the right, or the bottom or the top. It'll just snap the shell there to the grid, and because I got the packing bleed on set to 5 mils, I know that I'm moving these pieces around and they're going to be 5 mils away from the edge of that material there. So that's the hash option under Snap. But yeah, I'd encourage you to, if you're a long time user, just to go back and check some of these, because it's been a while since there's been an update. I have been working on it, I just haven't got around to releasing it, so there's quite a lot of changes there, and those are the major bug fixes. There's a lot more that I haven't listed. So that concludes my video for the version 2023 of UV Layout, and thanks for watching.